Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ajua and I hope this video finds you well. If you are new to this place, please consider subscribing, and to all my returning subscribers, thank you so much for your support and welcome back. So I watch a lot of fragrance channels. I'm subscribed to a lot of them, especially when it comes to fragrances or channels that talk about Middle Eastern fragrances, with a few designer and niche fragrances. And I once watched this video by a lady that I admire. I don't want to mention her name because I'm not sure whether she'll be comfortable with me saying this, but she made a comment by saying that when every niche girl wants to delve into Middle Eastern fragrances, the only thing you see them talking about is Casablanca by Swiss Arabian. And I was like, yes, I've noticed that. Like, I've seen several niche snobs, who wants to get their foot into Middle Eastern fragrances, and the only thing, one of the most popular amongst them is Casablanca, which apparently is a very good fragrance. I never got into the whole Casablanca vibe because it's quite difficult to get in Ghana, for example. So brands like Rasasi, Swiss Arabian, Haramain, and the likes are quite hard to come by, especially in places like Ghana. A lot of the vendors are into Latafa, fragrance world, other very popular brands. But I think because of the prices of the Swiss Arabians and Haramain and the Ateeq, you don't really get a lot of vendors getting them. And once they advertise, you see the few vendors advertising, they are quickly sold out, so they are quite hard to come by. So I only get these fragrances whenever I travel, and when I heard about this Casablanca, it's been on my radar for a very long time, but for some reason I never picked it up. In more recent times, I picked up Ebhar by Rasasi, which has been compared to Casablanca, and I was like, okay, I really love this fragrance, but I don't want to pick up a backup bottle because I hardly do a lot of backup bottles. But I was like, I would love to get something quite similar, but not the same thing. And I thought about it and decided to get Casablanca. So in this video, I want to share some fragrances which I feel are quite similar to Casablanca. This one is not, people say they don't get it where they are. I think a lot of areas do not get Casablanca, but the ones that I'm coming to show too are not super widely available. But I mean, if you get your hands on any of them, it will give you the same feel or similar vibes as Casablanca. I'll start this off by at least saying something a little about or reviewing Casablanca. It's known to be this very crisp green apple with some grapes and then some rose, patchouli, suede, a bit woody, a bit spicy. It doesn't come across as too spicy. When I heard people say Casablanca is very spicy, and when I compare it to other fragrances that I have, I don't think it's as spicy as other fragrances that I have come across. But I mean, to very not so Middle Eastern noses, probably this one might come across as very spicy. But personally, if I'm supposed to rate this in terms of its spiciness from 1 to 5, I think it's a 3. It's not like overly up there when it comes to spicy notes as compared to one other that I have here. This is a very sweet caramel with some green apples and the grapes, so it's quite fruity at the top and dries down to this beautiful sort of vanilla. It doesn't have the note of vanilla, but you get a very sweet caramel and vanilla at the base, coupled with that suede. Just a hint of the suede. The suede is not like overpowering at all. It is quite fruity as compared to, let's say, a few of the others that I have here. It's quite fruity because of the grapes and the green apple. It is also quite ambery with that Peru balsam, which gives it a very sort of ambery, resonance, thick sort of, feel. And that is what I get from Casablanca. As soon as you spray Casablanca, it will immediately remind you of Ebhar. I think this one was released in 2017 and this one was released in 2020. So this one precedes or was launched way back before this one. So if anything at all, Ebhar took inspiration from Casablanca. That I'll give it to it. However, this is much more fruitier as compared to Ebhar. This one is more of that vanilla. They are both very gourmand, but the Ebhar leans very vanilla-y, if that is a word. This one, you get much more of a resonance, thick, delicious amber sort of vanilla in this one, whilst this one is much more fruity with the grapes, and the grapes and the what else, apples, the green apple. This one also has some Granny Smith apple, a green apple, which gives off that very Granny Smith crepes apple vibes, but it's not as pronounced as the one that I get from Casablanca. This one is much more pronounced in the fruit and the woody aspects, the patchouli woods. You get it much more here, whilst you get a very forward leaning vanilla tonka bean, sort of creamy resonance, thick, rich, you know, vibes in this one. In comparison to Ebhar, Casablanca is much more transparent in that it is much more lighter, you know, although this one too gives me a very resonance, thick, rich vibe. It is much more transparent, much more lighter, you know, as compared to this. They are more similar at the opening, but when it begins to dry down, this one maintains its rich resonance vanilla tonka bean feel, whilst this one, you know, you get much more of that Granny Smith apple, the grapes, you know, and the woods, and a dash of that suede, you know, which is not present in this one. So these are the differences I find between these two. The next one I have here, which is quite similar to Casablanca and Ebhar, is Ateeq by Junaid. This one, the only difference I find between Ateeq's Junaid's Ateeq is that this one is much more woody, but there is an underlying same vanilla amongst those three. You know, Casablanca doesn't have the note of vanilla, but once you spray it, you get a very heavy, dense vanilla. This one has vanilla as a note structure with some amber, you know, so that it has amber, vanilla, rose, and cedar. And cedar is what makes this one stand out from the rest. This one has a very heavy, sort of masculine leaning presence. So imagine Casablanca or Rasasi's Ebhar and add more cedar to it. And that is when you get Ateeq by Junaid. This one is a little masculine leaning, you know, to me, as compared to these two. I think these two are perfectly unisex. Although this one is also unisex, I think it's a bit masculine lean, especially at the opening. But once it dries down, you appreciate that rose, that vanilla, that amber, you know. All these fragrances are heavy on the amber. You get a very ambery, thick resonance feel from these three, you know. Ateeq to me is a masculine version of Ebhar and Casablanca. They both share similar scent profile. If you like any of these, you're going to love Ateeq by Junaid. I'll consider this one as the his version, whilst these two can be easily the hers version, you know, or, you know, much more unisex version, whilst this one is masculine leaning. As soon as you spray one, it will remind you of the other. So Ateeq is, you know, in the Casablanca Ebhar family, and this one has, you know, this one gives me that sort of, you know, vanilla mint ice cream vibes, whilst Ebhar gives me that sort of vanilla ice cream vibes. But Casablanca, for example, doesn't give me any ice cream vibes, you know, probably because it doesn't have the note of vanilla, but it still gives you vanilla, but not like that ice cream sort of vibes. But this one, it doesn't have ginger, but it's quite spicy and gives me a sort of gingery, minty, vanilla nuance, you know. So those are the differences between these three. And the last one I have in my collection, which I find quite similar to these three, especially Ebhar, is Junoon Noir by Haramain. This one is supposed to be a dupe for Casablanca. I have no idea how it smells, but I understand it's quite an excellent dupe. This one, although similar to these three, is also the furthest away from being the same, if that makes sense, you know, because of that powdery kumquat that this one has, you know. This one has that kumquat, which makes it a bit different, but it's the same vanilla, the same sort of, you know, vanilla that I get from the rest, Ebhar, Casablanca, and then Ateeq. I get the same sort of vanilla from this one, coupled with a powdery, you know, citric touch, and that is what, you know, separates Junoon Noir from the rest. But as soon as you spray this one and it begins to dry down, to me it is more similar in a way to Ebhar because of that vanilla, you know, and that lime. They all have that lime lemon feel, but this one, what separates it is the kumquat. Kumquat is very evident, very heavy in this one, you know. It takes a different direction, but if you smell any of these, you will absolutely adore Junoon Noir because they have that same sort of vanilla. I think this one is closest to Ebhar by Rasasi to me, you know. When you spray it on skin and it begins to develop, you get that nuance of that vanilla in this one. It is furthest, or yes, it's the most furthest, or I mean, that is how I can put it in when I compare these four. I think it is furthest away from Ateeq, you know, because of the cedar. This one doesn't come off as masculine at all. None of these come across as masculine at all. But in comparison, you know, Junoon Noir to me comes off a bit as Ebhar, whilst Ebhar comes close to Casablanca, and then Ateeq comes close to both Ebhar and Casablanca, if it makes any sense, you know. But in general, it's like it belongs to the same scent family, scent profile. It gives you similar nuances here and there. If you like one of these, you're going to absolutely love the rest. And again, although they are quite similar, they are also very different in their own right, you know. Owning all of them, I cannot really say you don't need all of them in your collection. For me, I loved Ebhar, and I guess that instead of buying the backup bottle, I'll rather pick up Casablanca, since I had heard that it's quite similar, so that at least I have something with a different variation or a different touch. It will not be necessarily the same thing, but once I feel my Casablanca, my Ebhar is gone, I can lean on this one to give me the same experience, and that is why I picked Casablanca. So they are all, you know, Ateeq, Junaid's Ateeq, Junoon Noir, Ebhar, Casablanca, they give you similar vibes, although not the same fragrances. So to my niche girls, these are options that you can, you know, explore. I mean, Casablanca has served a lot of people well, and I think it's time to explore something else. And why not these fragrances? They are not super common, you know. Probably if you don't want to smell like any other person, then just give Ateeq. I think Junoon Noir is also very popular among my niche girls. I've seen a lot of them, like almost every niche girl who wants to dive into Middle Eastern, it's either Casablanca or Junoon Noir, or, you know, the Haramain, Afnan. I get it, you know, I get it. They are good, they are excellent, but I think maybe we can give Casablanca a break and then explore other similar fragrances if that is what you are looking for. So that is all I have for you today, and I hope this video found you well. Please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time here, and I hope to see you in my next one. Take care. Bye bye.